The first time I laid eyes on Linda Harris, I knew trouble was brewing. She was striding up my driveway like she owned the whole damn neighborhood, her short blonde hair bouncing with every determined step. Her face was a storm of self-righteous anger as she slapped a neon orange paper onto my windshield. I was peering out from my home office, my coffee going cold, wondering who this woman thought she was. When I swung open my front door to confront her, she jabbed a finger at me and barked, "I'm the real authority around here," before storming off to her gleaming white SUV. I stood there, dumbfounded, not knowing that in just a week, I'd be watching her get hauled away in handcuffs, red and blue police lights flashing across her stunned face. I'd only been in Maple Grove for 3 weeks, a sleepy suburban pocket with tidy lawns and houses that looked like they'd been stamped from the same mold. It was perfect for me, someone who worked from home and craved quiet. The realtor had mentioned the HOA, but swore they were laid back. That should have been my first warning. The morning after Linda's dramatic appearance, I grabbed the orange paper from my windshield. It looked legit at first, bold black letters screaming "Violation Notice" with a fancy gold seal in the corner. But when I read it, I nearly spat out my coffee. I was being fined $50 for parking with excessive confidence and vehicle cleanliness disrupting neighborhood harmony. What the hell? At the bottom, it was signed Linda Harris, Enforcement DVY Shown, with instructions to leave cash or a check in mailbox number 47. I chuckled, thinking it was some bizarre welcome prank, but a nagging feeling told me this wasn't a joke. That evening, while grabbing my mail, I mentioned it to my neighbor, Tom. His face darkened, a mix of pity and dread. "You've met Linda already?" "Huh," he said, sighing. "She's intense. Thinks she runs the neighborhood watch, the HOA, probably the whole town. She's been pulling this stunt for years." When I told him about the ridiculous violations, he nodded like he'd heard it all before. Some folks just pay her to avoid the drama. The HOA board's too spineless to stop her. His words left me uneasy. Over the next few days, I started asking around, and every neighbor had a Linda story. She'd handed out fake tickets for everything from overly festive mailbox decor to unapproved porch light wattage. The worst part? Some residents, especially the elderly, have been shelling out cash for years, too scared or confused to question her. Then, the following weekend, another orange slip appeared on my car. This time, I was cited for improper vehicle alignment and owning a non-neutral color car that clashed with community aesthetics. The fine was now due $75, with a scrawled note warning that improper vehicle alignment and owning a non-neutral color car that clashed with community aesthetics. The fine was now due $75, with a scrawled note warning that further noncompliance will result in towing and legal action. This was beyond absurd. It was predatory. I snapped a photo of the ticket and decided to take it to the next HOA meeting, ready to demand answers. The meeting was held in a drab community center, with flickering fluorescent lights and folding chairs that creaked under every shift. When I stood up to call out Linda's scam, the board members swapped nervous glances. The president, a jittery guy named Harold, stammered, "Ms. Harris isn't officially tied to our enforcement. This is a personal matter between residents outside our jurisdiction." I was floored. "She's forging documents with your logo, collecting money under false pretenses," I shot back. "How is that not your problem?" Harold just mumbled about it being a CIVYL issue and pivoted to discussing the community pool's opening date. As I left, an older board member pulled me aside and whispered, "Linda's brother-in-law is on the board. Nobody wants to cross her. The last guy who tried woke up to his prize azaleas doused in bleach." That was it. If the HOA wouldn't act, I'd handle it myself. I ordered a small security camera and set it up to watch my driveway. Then I waited, my anger simmering. 2 days later, at 6:30 a.m., my phone pinged with motion alerts. The footage was gold. There was Linda, decked out in a homemade uniform khaki pants, a navy polo with a stitched patch, and a cheap plastic badge clipped to her belt. She moved with eerie precision, slapping a ticket on my windshield, snapping photos of my car like a detective, and jotting notes in a little black book. It was so official looking that you'd believe she had real power if you didn't know better. I downloaded the VY and posted it to our neighborhood's social media group with a caption. Anyone else getting these fake tickets? Caught this on my camera this morning. By nightfall, the post had exploded. Hundreds of comments poured in from furious neighbors, and it was shared across citywide groups. Local news outlets started messaging me for inter-VYUs, and the VY was going VY-RAL. The next morning, armed with the footage, a stack of Linda's fake tickets, and statement from other VY Tims I'd gathered online, I marched into the police station. The desk sergeant raised an eyebrow, clearly thinking this was just a petty neighbor spat. But when I laid out one of Linda's citations next to an official county parking ticket, his jaw tightened. The similarities were uncanny. Designed her notices to mimic the real thing. When I mentioned her fake badge, he called over a detective. Detective Martinez studied the EVY Denke, her eyes narrowing at the VY of Linda in her mock uniform. This isn't just a neighborhood dispute, she said. We're talking impersonation, fraud, harassment, maybe even felony theft, depending on how much she's pocketed. She took my statement, copied my EVY Denke, and asked me to keep it hush-hush for now. 3 days later, I was working from home when I heard sirens. Peeking out my window, I saw 2 police cruisers parked in front of Linda's house. Detective Martinez and another officer stood at her door, holding what looked like a warrant. I couldn't help myself. I stepped onto my porch for a better VYEW, and I wasn't alone. Neighbors spilled out of their homes, whispering and watching. Linda answered the door in a bathrobe, her face morphing from irritation to panic as she realized why the cops were there. Her voice carried across the street, shrill and defensive. I'm upholding community standards. Someone has to keep this place in line. I'm doing the HOA's job. Detective Martinez stayed calm but firm, listing the charges. Linda's protests grew wilder. Those people should be thanking me. I've kept this neighborhood from falling apart. The tension peaked when Linda tried to slam the door, but the officers blocked it with their boots. In seconds, they had her in handcuffs, reading her rights as she ranted about being the real authority in Maple Grove. The street was dead quiet, save for the click of phone cameras as neighbors recorded the fall of their self-appointed overlord. In the days that followed, the full scope of Linda's scheme unraveled. A search of her home turned up meticulous records of every fake ticket she'd issued over 204 years, raking in more than due law $12,000 from intimidated or confused residents. The district attorney hit her with a slew of charges: fraud, impersonating an officer, extortion, and theft by deception. At her arraignment, Linda doubled down, insisting she was pro-VY ding a public ser VYC. The judge wasn't buying it, setting bail at due law $50,000 and warning that a con VY tie-in could mean up to 7 years in prison and fines topping due law $20,000. As they led her away, our eyes locked for a split second, and I saw something in her face: shock, yes, but also a flicker of defiance that made my stomach turn. The neighborhood hasn't been the same since. Some folks feel safer, relieved that Linda's reign of terror is over. Others whisper about whether the HOA will finally step up or if someone else will fill her shoes. Me? I'm just glad I trusted my gut and fought back, but I can't shake the feeling that this isn't the end of the story. What do you think? Did Linda deserve what she got? Or was she just a misguided control freak trying to keep the neighborhood perfect? Should the HOA be held accountable for letting her run wild for years? And here's the big one. If you caught someone like Linda in your neighborhood, would you confront her yourself or let it slide to avoid the drama? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more wild neighborhood sagas. I got a feeling Maple Grove has more secrets to spill.